Hi, with Mike from Terranscapes set to relaunch his online store on October 1st, I believe, I thought I would highlight what I consider the Martian must-haves. These are the Terranscapes boards that I would get first. So I have 3 plain boards, which are not as interesting as the other 3 special boards, and these are the 3 special boards I would get. I would stay away from rivers initially, just as a consumer, because you could end up with 2 river pieces, and what are you going to do with those? I'd go, if you want a water feature, starting with that, I'd go with the pond. It's a great reflective surface for War Machine, especially if you're going to use it for War Machine. I think if you're a War Machine player, you know what happens when a Warjack enters water. You can get some interesting effects, and it's a great way. It's so large that it's going to block. I mean, it's over a foot wide. It's going to change the flow of your game and how it's played. I probably wouldn't put it over here in the corner in someone's deployment zone. And of course, with what you would get if you order 6 boards, you don't really have a full-size board for most games, but I think a lot of gamers would make do. The Martian Buttes set, this would be number 1. No, you don't need to keep them all, in one spot. You put them wherever you want on the board, but that's what you get. So I would get the one with 3. I think that's number 1. That has 3 different buttes you can move around. They do have enough room on top for some models to stand in a game like Dark Age, for example, where models can climb up these. It depends on, for 40K, I think a lot of people are going to use them as impassable terrain in the sense that models couldn't land up here. In my games with my friend, his Autarch could land up here, things like that. Warp spiders could warp up here if there was enough room, and so on. And then the next thing I would get is the Martian Mesa. And I really love this piece. You have a large area here where either troops can hide behind. There's some kind of ape from 1843. Okay, so they can hide behind here to take some cover, and which is, of course is important. Or you can set up units of troops on the hills to take advantage of the height to see their opponents. So it's a great piece. With the buttes, you're not going to have that much room to put a lot of people on top. It's such a great piece. I even got another one, and I really imagine you're going to get something like this if you order it. But here's this one. This one is a little bit smaller, which works well for me because if I have 2 of them, you don't want everything to look cookie cutter and the same. So what I would get if you didn't get these 6 boards, or actually if you just had a little bit more money, the next thing I would do is not add a 7th board. I would replace one of the plain boards, and I would get the Martian Buttes set number 2. And that will give you 5 different pieces you can move around on your battlefield. And then another thing, a reason this appeals to me is to get the buttes, is if you have to, you don't have much terrain for whatever, if you have a greenish board set, go ahead. These aren't Terranscapes, but you could use these in a game. It doesn't look the best, but they definitely work. So you get a little bit of modular movement with this. And I think with 6 boards over here, you really have enough to start having interesting combinations. Obviously, here in the middle, I could flip both of these around, and that would change the whole nature of any kind of battle. Move this to the center. Move them around. Move these where you want. Of course, with Terranscapes, these boards, you do usually see the lines of the boards, which can also help you with figuring out some distances. But you don't. I think most people who buy a modular board set, they expect that, and they're not thrown off by it. You could just sit there if you really were bothered and try to cover up most of the lines with the buttes, but I don't care. I think it looks fine or great. So again, the pond is something I would definitely get. It's a water feature. You can have it. It doesn't have to connect to anything else. Logically, get the Martian Mesa and get the Butte set number 1. And then if you have a little bit extra money, I would get the Martian Butte set number 2 and 2 of these plain boards, which are the cheapest board. And I will have another video about some Terranscapes products, but these are the ones I would definitely get. And of course, it sounded like a conclusion, but let me just back up and also point out, you don't have to get the Martian color scheme. He just introduced a desert color, but if you can imagine, and I'll post the link to this, if these are the greenish, the ones flocked with green, and they're either gray or so on. He had a whole board set up this way, and he can do that, and I think it's just a little bit extra money. Imagine how much better they would look on a green board, and you have some terrain that's usable in 2 different settings. And that's a really nice feature.